living is out of control. Debt keeps piling up. Racial and political tensions are all over the world. And everywhere you look, it feels like something is broken. The American dream works for some people. For a lot of us, it just ain't doing it no more. Maybe you're thinking, I'm so tired of all this, but I don't really know what my options are. Friend, I got you. What if there was another way to live? And what if it actually costs you less? In this video, I'm going to show you how I'm living a completely different version of life, and it costs me less. I'll show you my March 2026 expenses, how I afford it without working a traditional 9-to-5, and how you can start building a life that fits you better. Friend, we've been told that there's only one way to build a good life. You need to work hard, you need to stay consistent, buy a house, pay your bills, and save whatever you can, and one day you're going to get to enjoy it all. That's the plan. And for some people, that plan works. But for a lot of people, it doesn't feel like a dream anymore. It feels like a system that you're just trying to keep up with. But no matter how hard we work, they keep moving the finish line from us, and we never actually get there. Everything costs more, there's more demands on us, and at some point you eventually say to yourself, is this the life I actually want, or just the life that somebody told me I should want? That question changes everything, and the moment you ask it, you get that wake-up call in your soul that says, there isn't just one path. For me, I started thinking about what some people would call weirdos. You know what I'm talking about. The people who live full-time on cruise ships, the people who live in the mountains, live off the land, the ones who are hiking for months with just a backpack, people who become digital nomads and they never sit still. They either couch surf, or they're living in hotels, living in hostels, or other weird scenarios. There are people all over the world living completely different versions of life. Different priorities, different structures, different costs. You call them weird, they call it freedom. And one day you realize, maybe they're onto something. Some of those lives don't just feel better, they're actually more affordable. That's what I discovered when I was willing to question what I thought was the only option. I didn't reinvent the world. I just stepped outside of a system that wasn't working for me, and I built something that does. A life that gives me more freedom, more flexibility, and more control over my time. It didn't require more money. It required a different approach. For me, it actually requires less money, believe it or not. Let me show you what this looks like in real numbers. I'm going to show you what my alternative lifestyle looks like, how much it costs me, how I can afford to do it, and how you can get started on your own path. If you're sitting there thinking, sure, that's all fine and dandy. Okay, you're going to tell me your story, but what would that even look like for me? That's exactly why I created Retire Without Millions, because most people don't need more money. They just need a different plan. And in this course, I walk you through how to create a plan that works for you. So go ahead and check that out if it's something that you're interested in. When I finally stopped trying to make the American dream work for me, that's when things really started to change. I sold my house, I got a divorce, I quit my job, and I got rid of almost everything that I own. I didn't waste any time contemplating it. Nope. I ripped the Band-Aid off, and I know you might be thinking that was really foolish to just do it like that. There is a scripture that says, how can a man build a house without first counting the cost? But the thing is, I did count the costs. I counted those costs years ago. I had already done the math, and I had already come up with what I wanted to do in life. I had all these plans, B, C, D, E, F. I just never had the courage, never had the guts to start taking action until now. I finally let go of the idea that I needed a traditional home, that a 6-figure 9-to-5 job was the only viable financial currency, that staying in a toxic marriage was the right thing to do. And I stopped building a life around stuff. Was the change uncomfortable? Yes. Was it risky? Very. But staying where I was? that felt even riskier. My life looks very different now living full-time on cruise ships. I'm not stressed, I'm not cooking, I'm not cleaning, I'm not doing any laundry. I have time for my family and the things that I actually enjoy. On average, my housing, food, and transportation is about $2,500 a month. Let's look at a real example, March 2026. For March 2026, I stayed on Radiance of the Seas out of Fort Lauderdale for 4 days, and it cost me $300.92. Then on March 6th, I flew over to Los Angeles on American Airlines, which cost me $273.19. From there, I sailed on Carnival Radiance, and I was on that ship for 3 cruises for 23 days, and there were stops in Hawaii, Catalina Island, Cabo San Lucas, and Ensenada. Those 3 sailings cost me $809.11. I had 2 overnight flights, so for 2 days, I didn't have housing expenses. And I also stayed in a hotel in Baltimore for 2 nights. Those cost me $360.64. My total housing expenses for the month of March was just shy of $1,500. When I add in my other expenses like gratuities, the flights, food off the ships, and room service, my total travel expenses for the month of March was just under $3,000. Now, if you're going to ask me how did I get the cruises so inexpensively, make sure you check out my very first video that is linked in the video description. I do have other expenses like health insurance, cell phone, gifts, streaming services, and other non-cruise related expenses, but those will vary for each person based on your age, your history, your beliefs, and a bunch of other things. For me, the miscellaneous expenses are around $750 a month. You can see here that my month-over-month expenses increased by about $1,000. Some of that was because I took some Carnival cruises, which are typically higher than Royal Caribbean cruises, and in January and February I took all Royal Caribbean cruises. So it was a little less in January and February than it was in March. The other big factors were the 2 flights that I took in March. While I did go over budget for the month of March, my year-to-date expenses are still under an average of $2,500 a month. Most people think to live on cruise ships that you have to either work for a cruise line or be rich. I am neither one. I started this YouTube channel on June 5th of 2024. I got monetized in July, and I got my first AdSense check in August. Since then, my average income is $3,500 to $4,000 a month, which more than covers my total monthly expenses. In March, I made $5,000. I learned how to do YouTube the right way by taking a course called YouTube After 40, which walks you through step-by-step of how to grow an audience and get monetized. It comes with a lifetime access to a community of like-minded content creators, and we bounce ideas off each other and we grow our channels together. The link to join is in the video description if you are interested. If you do decide to join and you want to work with me one-on-one indirectly, just make sure you tag me and say hi, and we'll work together in the community. This isn't about trying to convince you to live full-time on cruise ships. It's about showing you that the life that you are handed isn't the only option. There are definitely other ways to live. Some of them cost less, some of them give you more freedom. Even though some people might call them weird, they're really not. All of them start the same way, by questioning what you thought you had to do and choosing what actually works for you. I built an income that supports this lifestyle. It's not traditional, but it works. You don't need permission to build a different life. Thanks for watching. This has been Linnell, with more proof that life doesn't have to look the way they said it should.